Hello everyone, hopefully an OK Editor 357 here, and for today's video I will be reviewing the visual novel Starlight Shores, developed by Delphinium Interactive, who provided me with review codes for the game. Per the usual, since this is a spoiler-free review, any footage that can be seen as spoilery in some way will be blurred or edited to avoid said spoilers. Due to the nature of how the story plays out, I'll touch on that in a few moments. I may have to reuse footage a lot, so if you see the same dialogue or artwork a bunch of times, don't worry, you're not in a hellish Steins Gate time loop where you'll watch your best friend die every 5 seconds. Unless your watch isn't working. You might want to check that real quick. Anyways, all that being said, let's start talking about the story. When Delphinium Interactive reached out to me about doing this review, Starlight Shores caught my attention right away because of something about the story. It takes place over the course of a single night. Delphinium Interactive said they were always interested in short fiction, and hadn't seen many, if any, visual novels take that sort of chance with the story, and hence Starlight Shores came to be. I immediately became interested in Starlight Shores when I heard this, because making your story take place over the course of one night means taking on the challenge of writing compelling characters, introducing them, and having them undergo character development, all in a relatively short span of time. So, did Delphinium Interactive deliver on that front? First, let's talk about the plot itself. Also, that's what I was referring to earlier. Because the story takes place in one night, you can kind of go through certain events and routes quickly, and I don't want to give away any spoilers about the characters or story as a whole, hence why I may be inclined to reuse footage for this review. You play as Will, a college student who hasn't seen his best friend Theo in months. However, Theo won a free weekend getaway to the town of Seaside just in time for your birthday, so the story starts with you making your way to the cabin to begin your fun weekend of reconnecting with your friend. Also spending the weekend with you guys is Lena, Theo's newfound friend, your friend Alec, who Theo invited, and a last-second arrival, Alec's girlfriend, Erica. Over the course of the story, you'll spend the time hanging out with your group of friends and making choices while doing things such as playing party games or going out for coffee, and these choices will determine who you spend more time with and grow closer to, who you learn more about, who you're going to have to cook alive on the fire because you forgot to bring food.
Oh no, wait. That last one was just on my list of things to do for this weekend. Sorry.
Or who you may even grow farther apart from. And that's the story of Starlight Shores. I love visual novels with lots of choices. I love making a plethora of saves and navigating all my choices in an effort to get more endings, and see all the content a visual novel has to offer. And Starlight Shores does a great job of presenting the player with a ton of choices that can change the route that you're heading down in the story. Even if the decision is about something as trivial as deciding what you're more excited to eat, hot dogs, marshmallows, or the souls of the damned. There's a real sense of strategy to it all, trying to figure out what choices lead to what situations, and how to avoid certain messy situations, and which choices will land you in the good graces of the character you want to focus on. One thing I found really cool about the choices on Starlight Shore is that the choices you may think are the right or best choices for the situation you're in might not always be the best choices after all. My first time playing through the story, I was confident that what I was doing was right, and that I was going to go down a certain character route. But my choices didn't sit right with said character, and even as I tried to do the opposite of what I had been doing up until that point, I just kept done goofing until I pretty much got the worst ending in the game. It felt like real life. While we can do our best in our everyday lives to do what we believe is right, including how to go about helping or comforting others, at the end of the day, we're only human and can never surely know if the choices we make are the best ones. Life's all about trying your best, and sometimes you will fall hard. And that's something that the choices and multiple story paths in Starlight Shores reminds me of. Either that, or maybe I'm just really bad at reading situations, and everyone else got better endings right away, and I'm a terrible person.
Alright, but in my defense, the only person I've talked to for the past 6 years has been that Sumi body pillow.
Going back to what I said earlier, about how the choices in Starlight Shores feel real, I think that's the strongest thing about this visual novel's story. It all feels so real. When everyone is hanging around the fire and playing Truth or Dare, I feel like I'm really there with them as I try to catch up with an old friend, while still hanging around new people. The story starts you off with Will reminiscing about his friend Theo, and how it's been a while since you've last seen each other. And the whole story has this nostalgic atmosphere that it builds up by having them reunite and act as if it's only been a matter of days since they've seen each other. But along with this nostalgia comes a tinge of sadness, as you meet the new characters and realize that it has been some time since you've last seen each other, and things change, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse. Change is something we're all scared of at some point in life, and Starlight Shores really hones in on the fact that sometimes, no matter how much you want to, you can't just go back to the way things used to be, no problem. With this atmosphere, you have wonderfully written characters who don't act like typical anime or visual novel characters. They act like the stupid young adults that they are, like real people. This isn't some high school setting where crazy antics occur and then one of the characters screams loudly while the camera pans up to the sky. The more everyone drinks as the night goes on, the more potentially awkward and really tense situations occur. And depending on what you choose to do, things could end up exploding. Not literally, Megumin isn't a character in this game. Or you can end up learning from it, becoming a better person and growing closer to your friends. Starlight Shores deals with quite a few things in its story, and the things it deals with changes depending on which character you focus on. I don't want to get into the specific character-focused themes, but I will say, like any good romance visual novel with multiple choices, the characters, even the ones without a root or ending dedicated to them, all come with their emotional baggage that you can pick up traces of during various conversations throughout the story. And a lot of the issues they face are very modern, personal problems, further adding to the realness, for a lack of a better word, of Starlight Shores. And the way you learn about these characters and try to help them throughout the many choices throughout the story was handled really well. As for the story of Starlight Shores as a whole, I mentioned earlier about how the change that comes with the passing of time makes for a brilliant atmosphere for the visual novel. The core thing that the story tackles with is the loss or gradual fading out of friendship. And I think that's something that we all have experienced or have been scared of experiencing in our lives. Personal backstory time. Up until last year, I worked at a movie theater. Remember those? Anyways, because the theater industry is in shambles for obvious reasons, the theater I worked at closed down and it's unsure of when it'll open again. At least that's what the script I am currently reading said. As of the time of recording this, it's actually been announced that the mall that the theater was connected to is getting torn down soon, so pretty good chance it's not going to reopen. And honestly, I made some of my closest friends to date at that theater. So now that I don't have this guaranteed tether to the mall, I'm scared I'm going to lose touch with them and never see them again. Now I can keep in contact with them all, and for a lot of them I do still Snapchat or message them daily, but I'm genuinely scared that I'm going to lose some of my closest friends, and overall just kindest people I know, to the sands of time. Now I can see why Anakin hates sand so much. He wasn't talking about literal sand, but the sands of time. So when this story starts dealing with the real emotional toll of Theo and Will spending so much time apart, it really hit hard, and I found myself thinking about not just the coworkers I'm scared of losing my connections with, but also the other people who I've already experienced this fading out of a friendship with. It's painful, and chances are you've either experienced this or might have experienced it already. Some say it's just a part of life, but you, or Will in this case, depending on how you go about making choices in the story, can try to figure out the relationship between you two, and try to fix it, develop it into something more, or embrace your newfound reality and not as close relationship with Theo. And that's what Starlight Shores really boils down to. It's about the gradual loss and fading out of a friendship, as I've already said, but it's also about figuring out how to cope with this and figure out which bonds or friendships you have in life are worth fighting for. In case me rambling about the core theme of the story and how much it meant to me wasn't clear enough, I think the way Starlight Shores handles this relatable and very real theme, through its realistic character writing and great choice system, was handled perfectly. It really is impressive how Delphinium Interactive manages to introduce characters, get you to care about them while leaving hints about their emotional states and character arcs, and weave a very touching and important story over the course of multiple routes which all take place during one night. So to answer my earlier question, do I think Delphinium Interactive delivers on making a good story, despite the limits that having the story take place in a relatively short span of time might create? I'd certainly say so. Moving on to the artwork.
What's this doing here? It's been too long, man.
The artwork is very good. The character sprites for everyone are well drawn, bright looking, and matches the characters' personalities well. All the backgrounds are colorful and beautiful to look at, especially the background art for the beach with the beautiful night sky and calming fire. These really add to the nostalgic but also bittersweet atmosphere I mentioned earlier, fully immersing you and making you feel like you're hanging around with a cast of characters, having fun and playing party games. The CGs are all well drawn as well, with varying art styles such as bright and energetic, much like the character sprites, chibi art for some of the more casual or lighthearted scenes, and CGs that just have something different about them that gives them a very mature feeling. I'm not sure how to describe it well. talking about art isn't my strong point, but it's something about the lighting and composition of the particular CGs, the ones I'm talking about now being at the end of certain character roots, that make them feel much more raw compared to the others. And I mean that in a good way, because the moment these particular CGs are used is the moments when the game's character roots come to a conclusion and the game really leans in on the character writing and story progression that feels so real. So the more mature or real feeling CGs add to those scenes wonderfully. So overall, you have a great variety of art that matches the nostalgic, sad, and heavy atmosphere that the story of Starlight Shores has to offer. Onto the soundtrack. The soundtrack of Starlight Shores, much like the artwork, is well varied and matching for the many different twists and turns the story can take depending on your choices. Right from the start, the title screen music is beautiful and calming, with a touch of melancholy to it, perfect for a reunion of friends that could go wrong. Earlier scenes before the night begins, or scenes where the characters are having fun, are accompanied by upbeat but acoustic sounding tracks. The more serious or somber scenes are given heavier sounding tracks which rely more on piano, but also other instruments to give the night an almost ethereal feeling. And then there's this track, and it's so perfect for the scene it's used in, and I just don't know if I could describe it and do it justice, so I'm just gonna play a few seconds of it here. Yeah, when that track starts playing, it got me even more invested in what was happening, and I found myself just appreciating the sheer beauty of not only the track, but the visual novel as a whole. So overall, Starlight Shores has just the perfect amount of variety of both art and music that fits the length of the one-night story. One more thing I'd like to discuss briefly about the game before heading to the conclusion is the UI. It's really pretty. The text box looks like the starry night sky that you'll be looking at so much in the background, and the menu has the same aesthetic and it's easy to navigate. If I could nitpick one thing about the game, it's that it doesn't have an ending list, but the way around that is by taking a look at your gallery and seeing which CGs you've unlocked. Chances are, once you've unlocked all the CGs, you've seen most, if not all, the story content Starlight Shores has to offer. I recommend fooling around by doing any number of weird choice combinations, just to see if there's any small pieces of dialogue or story content you might have missed, but chances are you'll have seen the most important parts of the story. And if you're having trouble getting all the CGs and seeing all the story content, if there isn't already a guide online, reach out to Delphinium Interactive and they'll be more than happy to either give you hints to nudge you in the right direction, or provide you with a guide. I even had to ask for help, especially towards the end when I couldn't figure out how to unlock one last CG, but the answer was pretty straightforward, so I think I was just being dumb. Chances are, with enough foresight and strategizing, you'll be able to figure out which choices lead to you seeing certain story routes so you can see it all. So, overall, Starlight Shores is a unique, approximately 6-hour, depending on your reading speed of course, visual novel that manages to tell a compelling story with well-written and realistic characters via multiple story routes that can be accessed through a series of choices that'll have you scrambling to figure out what to do. Starlight Shores is definitely worth your time, and I rate it will make you want to make a picture collage of your friends to the song Good Riddance by Green Day. I rate Starlight Shores a 9.5 out of 10. You can get Starlight Shores on itch.io for $4 or more, and if you're still not sure on whether you want to give the game a try or not, you can download a free demo of Starlight Shores as well. I'll leave a link to the itch.io page in the description. Now onto the Who is Best Girl segment, and the best girl of Starlight Shores is Erica. While at first, Will may not be inclined to like Erica, I think that what we learn about her as the story progresses really makes her stand out as a great character. Also, her dynamic with Alec, which will cause certain elements of the plot to progress, was never boring to watch, and her character development, depending which story route you take, is really satisfying to watch. The reasons I just stated is why Erica is my choice for Best Girl in Starlight Shores. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the review. Thank you very much to Delphinium Interactive for the review code and opportunity to take a look at Starlight Shores. Keep up the great work. As of right now, future DLC content for Starlight Shores is planned, as well as another seaside-centered romance visual novel titled Blossoms, both of which I am looking forward to. Thank you everyone for watching, and until the next video, see you guys.
Okay. Hey man, listen, I know it's been a while, but I was just wondering if you're free this Saturday maybe? We could hang out and play some Cuphead. We still haven't beaten it after all. Yeah? Alright, sounds good. See you then, man.